Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to In Studio's After Show. We have just finished filming our spring sketch show, Spring Training, and we are the Improvisation News team. My name is Chris O'Neill, and I'm joined by my teammates.
Laura Rosecook.
Pamela Joy.
Izzy Church.
Frank Logan.
Femi Olagoke.
And Ellen Coe.
Yay!
We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the process of creating an entire sketch show, which is what we do here at Improvisation News, from writing it to rewriting it, rehearsing it, and eventually putting it on stage and or in front of a camera. We've received questions on Twitter at our handle @in_studios, on our Facebook page, and also from our studio audience here. So, without further ado, guys, if you're ready, let's get into it and let's talk about sketch. Here's a good one. Miss Ellen Coe, who's been on the team for quite some time now. Where do you get your ideas for sketches?
I notice when I get upset, I notice when I get angry or tired or like sad. I just notice like when my emotions kind of go off the scale and I'm like, oh, that's a real like trigger for me, and then I try to make something funny out of it.
Excellent. I love that answer because one of the things we do here at Improvisation News is react emotionally, and we work from an emotionally centered place. And that also applies to sketch because you can't have funny if it's not based in real feel. This is a perfect one for Pamela Joy, and you'll see why.
Okay.
How does working with In Studios serve your joy? And if you could just quickly mention what we mean by serve your joy as well.
Sure. Yeah, I think serve your joy just means really following what makes you happy, kind of what excites you, basically. And so the question was, how does it serve my joy?
By, working here with us at In Studios.
Okay. In a lot of ways. I mean, I think it's very fulfilling and empowering to be able to create material and just do something that you love and that makes you really happy. And yeah, I think, I don't know if I'm answering this fully,
You are.
but okay, good. There's more I want to say. I'm trying to look for the words. You know, also it just helps you to go with the flow and not make everything so perfect. So like in this instance, when you can't figure out what you want to say, you just go with it, and it's good, and your team supports you, and they nod their heads, and they say yes, and then they do something, and the next thing you know, it makes sense. And I think that's really cool. It's a very good confidence booster.
Absolutely. That was Pamela Joy on how we serve her joy here at In Studios.
Hey, Chris.
Yes,
Can
Frank?
we go back to the question before about where we get our ideas for
Please.
sketches from? Because I had that same question when I first started with IN, and we have a sketch writing class at IN. And that's what I thought to myself, how do people get ideas for a sketch? That's got to be impossible. And I think that most of it just comes from everyday life. It's absurdity, because so many absurd things happen in life every day, and we just sort of don't realize that's a sketch. And I think as you start writing it, every minute, throughout the day, I'm going, that's a sketch, that's a sketch, that's a sketch. You know, just walking around the city, or watching the news, or whatever. And then sometimes it's also a message. So like tonight we had a sketch about Donald Trump. So sometimes you want to make a statement, sort of, in a way that's not preachy. And so, so I just wanted to say that.
Very well put. Thank you. It looks like we have a question from an audience member here. Please.
Hi, my name is Sammy Henry, and I just was wondering if any of you guys were nervous that you didn't know enough about baseball to come up with a sketch show with the title Spring Training.
Ellen?
Yeah, so when the theme of our show was announced and when it was baseball and spring training, I was actually kind of mad. I was like, I know nothing about baseball. And like, I'm like, man, that's not fair. But, you know, I got to get some of that out. Like, I wrote some sketches that didn't make it to the show about how dumb I think baseball is. And it was a really nice way to focus on, like, generate more material. You know, we talked about where do we get our ideas. We're given something and we're like, rah. And then you take something that's kind of grumpy making and you make yourself laugh about it. And so you kind of can turn a situation around. And yes, I know nothing about baseball. I care nothing about baseball. Baseball could stop existing tomorrow. I wouldn't even notice.
I think that's an excellent way to describe sort of how we all do it, because you still can write a sketch about baseball. You don't need to know the names of any players, but your idea might be that you hate baseball, so, or you just mentioned baseball could not exist. So what is a world in the United States where baseball doesn't exist? And maybe you write a sketch about that. So a theme is often just a jumping point for us to bounce ideas off of one another and figure out where we want to go from there. And I think actually that's, if I do say so myself, a good segue into this next question, which I'm going to ask of Frank, just because of something you mentioned. You mentioned that we have sketch clinic and a sketch class at In Studios. And so if you could briefly describe what is sketch clinic, and then also additionally what is the writer's room that we work in?
Well, so sketch clinic is a really more of a workshop than anything. We do an exercise usually, and then we basically workshop sketches that we have written. We cast them and read them out loud, and then we examine them from a few different viewpoints, and then take some feedback on them. And then sometimes we'll actually rewrite them and come back at a later time, which was great for me. I'd never actually written anything before I started taking the class at IN, ever. So, and then writer's room is more specifically for our shows, where we have our team members, where we brainstorm and come up with ideas and sketches for our shows specifically.
Great.
If I could just add on to that
Please,
too, as
Henry.
far as the sketch clinic. I didn't think I could write too. I always thought, well, I don't know what to write or how to do it. But since I started taking the class, I've just somehow awoken the creative juices that I've had in me, and just by paying more attention to situations, reading, and things, and I've just been coming up with ideas and ideas. Like the other day, I just wrote 2 sketches just by thinking of it, you know, on the spot, and I was like, wow, this is actually, I didn't know I had this in me. So it's really been helpful, like just to think that way, and you can just write things that, you know, either you think of or you see something like, oh, that's an idea, or that's a sketch. My brain has just been thinking sketch. Even the whole V. Frank Logan, I'm like trying to turn that into a sketch. So it's really, you know, stirred something up in me, which is great.
Excellent. Yeah, something else that taught me was that it's okay to sort of laugh at your own jokes, because sometimes you write a sketch, like I know for sketches, and I brought them into workshop, and people have been like, huh? Like you read it out loud, and they have these looks on people's faces, like you just ask them to solve pi. You know, they're like, what the? But I'm hilarious. I'm like, that's great, isn't it? I think it's hilarious, you know, which is okay, I think. So, and you know, some work, some don't work, but you get it out and you write it and you enjoy it, and that's what counts.
I'm a little like Frank. I think I'm brilliant. The thing is, before sketch clinic and writer's room, I never actually put anything down on paper. So having deadlines, having people who are waiting to hear what you wrote, having assignments, having people to be accountable with, has really helped me get all these ideas that are bouncing around in my head out and on paper and flying around in the world. It's really nice to have that little push to get it out.
I agree, and actually I'm gonna just, as a writer myself, mention that I, as you all know, I went to school and got a bachelor's degree in writing, and then hardly did anything with it for 10 years, and then having deadlines and people expecting that you're writing and rewriting and revising, I have found my joy in writing again by doing sketch clinic and being part of our writer's room here. It's very fun. Looks like we have another question from the audience.
Hi.
Hi.
Great job, everyone. I really enjoyed it. My name is Looney Jules, And my question is, how did you guys come together as a team?
Does anyone want to field that one? I mean, I can. We all we all started as students at the Improvisation News Conservatory, and then a lot of people take different paths to get to the team. It starts out as in the writer's room that we just mentioned, where you pitch ideas for sketches that get written and rewritten and may or may not end up in the final show. After that, you become a finalist on the team and perform in the shows and have a more full role, and then become a full team member. So we all sort of just coalesce and vibe and work with one another. That was a really good one.
If I can
Well
add
done.
to that, just I guess because we were just students, we all happened to be here around the same time. We sort of came together as a team, kind of by accident.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like from all of us like working together so often and so closely for a couple months now, we've really started to sort of like get to know how we think and how each one of us improvises, so that we're able to like pick up on each other's
Mhm.
cues better and support each other more on stage, which is really helpful. Like just with building your own skills, and then it's a lot of fun too.
I think there's something else too, that the question was, how do we become a team? And I think that a big part of that is chemistry.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
everyone's on this team it's completely voluntary. If you don't like what's happening, you don't have to be on the team. And we all, I think, right, want to be on this team. And want to be, I'm pretty sure anyway. I mean, we were this morning. You know what I mean? I think it's a big part of it too, because and I've been here for a while. Ellen has too, and Chris. It's not. Sometimes it's a little bit different. So yeah, this is a team where we all sort of came together and coalesced. I like that word. Coalesced. I'm not sure what it means, but I like the sound of it.
And I think out of the conservatory, one thing in common with us is that we just keep showing up. Like
Mm.
we're like the really we're there every week.
Yeah.
Like I think just showing that level of commitment and dedication is like a sign that this is what we're in here to do, and then it just kind of naturally becomes the way the world is.
Yeah. I'm going to ask Ms. Izzy Church a question. It made me think the question about how do you write a sketch that is about baseball, and it made me think of your sketch in tonight's show, which was really a parody of the movie A League of Their Own. And so technically, yes, about baseball, but at its heart, it's a different type of sketch. And so with that in mind, what's the process like from the initial pitch through all the rewrites to a final product that is in a show?
Okay, so I kind of felt similar to Ellen when I had just joined the writer's room and it was a baseball theme. I was like, what? People. I just walked in here. You don't want me to walk back out the door, right? Because I know nothing about baseball. So the only thing that I could think of was, we've been discussing all these different types of things that we could do, PSAs and parodies. I was like, okay, I love the movie A League of Their Own. I could do a parody of that. And I love that movie. So I think I had watched it just recently, so it was a little bit coincidental. And then, so, a parody is really, looking at the language in a film, and you're not copying the language completely, but you're identifying with the language and you're mimicking what's going on in the actual movie so that people know that it's a parody. That you're not just taking it off to left field. You're making sure that people are in the same world that they watched the movie in. So it was really an idea to make it grandmothers, and it was fun. And I just had a really good time doing it. And then, of course, we have an amazing creative director who helps guide us to make sure, Liz Parrish, who helps us to take our creative ideas and really, make them jump off the page and entertain our audience while following a good structure. And she helped me to mold it into a movie preview. So I had originally a sketch, and she was like, I think it would be really great if we turn this into a movie preview. And so that's how it kind of works. You throw something out there, and then you work on it, and then, you know, you take it in and people help shape it, and we all get up and perform it, and then next thing you know, it's being performed here in front of a live studio audience.
Yeah.
And speaking of performing, we of course just finished filming a sketch show, but we also do improvisation. We are, after all, Improvisation News and the Improvisation News team. So we're just going to talk about the process of improvisation, and I'd like to mention that what we do is improvisational theater, which is, as I mentioned before, an emotionally centered work, whereas improvisational comedy is a lot like writing on your feet. Improvisational theater is more like acting without a script. And sometimes, if you're doing it from an emotional place, it can be funny, and we hope it is, but that's not necessarily the goal. And so, what's one way, Laura, that your improvisation training has either helped or come up in your daily life?
I don't know. I did go on an audition once, and I know just like I wasn't really nervous. Actually, a couple auditions I went on, I used to get so nervous, like all the time with those things. And I think just from being here and like really working on just like letting go of like anything in my head and just kind of going with my gut, which is where you need to be for an audition. Because then rather than thinking about like, oh, what if I say the wrong line or this or that, whatever. So I think that helps in that sense.
Very nice. And it's funny that you perfectly segued into another question, which is, do we ever get nervous for improvisation shows? Would anyone like to field that one? Pamela.
I wouldn't really say it's nervousness. I would say sometimes I feel more like excitement. Well, actually, in the beginning, I was more nervous, but we're doing this, you know, sometimes up to 3 days a week where we're just improvising together, not in front of an audience, just like as a rehearsal, even though you don't really rehearse improvisation. But so then it's like I find that I'm not nervous anymore. I'm just like I'm like, get me on the stage, you know, and yeah. So I don't really get nervous.
Well, I like that you mentioned that we rehearse improvisation, because we do, and when we do that, we're, of course, not coming up with lines or anything like that, but we're rehearsing a form that we have decided will be performed in the next show. And a question we sometimes are asked after a show, when we've frankly done a really good job, is, hey, it looks like you rehearsed that. How did you just come up with that all on the spot? You know, like, we don't believe you. We don't believe that this is brand new right here in front of us. And yet it is. So, Frank, if you could take this one. How do we do it so that it looks like it's rehearsed?
Well, it ain't easy. You know, okay, so with improvisation in general, and then specifically with improvisational theater, you know, there are sort of principles that we are taught. They're really more guidelines. The way I think of improvisation conceptually is just that we do it every single day. Every day that you interact with anybody, you're improvising. You didn't prepare that ahead of time. You didn't write down what you were going to say. When someone says hi to you, you're not like, oh, I better tell them about my thing. You know, just you are reacting to the world around you, the environment that's created in front of you. And that's exactly what we do. You connect to people in life. You connect to your partner in a scene, and you just go from there. The same way. Right now we're talking without anything prepared, it's exactly the same way. That's how I think about it. So.
Very nice. And one question we've gotten from our Twitter is, can anyone improvise, or do they have to be super talented just like all of us?
Definitely super talented. Because there's no, just kidding.
I think anyone is super talented. It just takes some nurturing and maybe a little bit of encouragement and support and, you know, guidance and shaping to have it really read for everyone.
Yeah.
I-
And,
No, go
I
ahead.
just want to add that I think Ellen has a point. I think like anyone could probably learn it, but I think the most important thing is that it's something you enjoy. You have to love being on stage and entertaining people. That has to be in you. Even if you still need practice and you get the nerves, that joy, serving your joy, needs to be like underneath everything. And I think people can notice it too when you're watching someone on stage. Like I know I do. Someone like that looks like that guy's having so much fun
Mhm.
up there. Like, so I hope I look like that too. And I think we all do. And I think that's maybe part of why people ask us if it was rehearsed, because we just have so much fun doing it that we just like go for it.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Laura says, and I just wanted to add that there is a certain openness I think that people need to have to do improvisation. Apart from acting, it is an openness, because that is what you make that connection and you say yes to whatever is going on, and then so you have to be open to that sort of thing. There's an openness there, and if you don't have that, then you're definitely gonna struggle. So that's key.
I also think you have to just kind of be flexible. Like your mind has to be like gooey enough to like move from one place to the next, but also alert enough to like take in
Mhm.
whatever is happening. So agile, and like Laura said, also just having fun when you're
Yeah.
doing it.
Oh, I think it comes with practice too, and being open, like gooeyess, I think it's all like letting go of your barriers. And just from personal experience, like I was very shy when I was a kid, so shy, like I hardly talked to anyone. And when I was in high school, I started to get involved with theater and specifically with improv. And that's really what helped me to start coming out of my own shell, because I was up on stage and I could sort of like be myself, but in a way that I wasn't myself,
Mhm.
in a way, if that makes sense. But I think, like, for me anyway, it's kind of like freeing in a way, and I think you have to be able to like be open and like be vulnerable and let your emotions out and let everything show, kind of.
Yeah, and if I could, I was just gonna say with that, I think that's why improv is such a good tool for anyone. Like, you don't have to be an actor or necessarily. I think because of what you just said, how it frees you, and not only that, but like it gives you this other layer of confidence. I truly believe that, because even I've been in studios now, I think a full year, and I can feel the growth within me and just how I interact with, anyone, and like stranger on the street. I'm just more open, and I don't know. I just really believe that they should bring this into schools. I think it can help a lot of people.
I agree. And in regards to can anyone do it, I think one of the important things is that there are guidelines, not rules, but by knowing and taking a class or several, you learn these and then are able to break the rules so that you can have fun and have a great time, but still be working from a grounded place where you know what to do in order to have the best time and be able to do it to the best of your ability. So yes, anyone can improvise. Very long story short, yes, anyone can improvise.
It's like therapy.
Yes.
It
Especially
is a
with
lot
the-
like
this-
therapy.
The improvisational theater, especially.
Yes.
Any emotion can come out.
Yes.
If you're ready for
It's
it.
very
It's
good
like
for
cathartic,
socially
yeah.
awkward people.
Well,
Which I
don't like-
I'm not
Really
talking
is.
about you guys or
We're
anything.
all
No, no,
socially
no.
awkward.
Or people who
But
don't like to
anybody else.
talk.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because one of the questions we got from Twitter is what first drew you to improvisation? Because though we all are actors, I think there's a reason that each of us may have come to it, whether it's because maybe you feel socially awkward or you want to become more confident or any number of things. What personally, if someone's ready to share, drew you to improvisation?
Yeah, so I think, we're all actually regular, is that the word? Regular actors as well. And so regular,
The regs.
normal actors. And I was starting to get quite a few auditions that would go on where they would ask me to improvise. And I remember the first time I was asked to improvise an audition, I was like, in my head, I was like, what? am I gonna do now?
Mhm.
Which is so stupid
Yeah.
because they put you in a situation, just say something. And I was like a deer in front of headlights. I had no idea what was going on. So I started looking for improvisation training, and that's what drew me to IN. And the rest is history.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
For me, I've just always loved improvisation and just kind of just playing in general in any kind of form, and it's something that I always wanted to do. I've done it before in school, but then I was away from it for a while. I was focusing on regular acting. But yeah, I know that fire was still there, and I through my what's the word? But anyway, I somehow found Improvisation News team and met Israel about God, maybe it's 2 years now, or about a year and a half ago, and we stayed connected. And I've worked with him in different capacities, but I've always stayed connected because I knew somehow I'll always end up doing improv, and it's just something that I just feel comfortable doing it. I don't mind, making an ass of myself or being stupid for a joke. So it's just something I'm comfortable just being stupid and silly.
I think to
so.
be an actor in general, you
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
feel
yeah, you have to
pretty,
just-
yeah, he's
yeah,
willing to
Willing
be-
to be an
yeah.
idiot.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm very
exactly.
comfortable being an idiot. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that.
Good. Well, we sort of accidentally started on a question, which was how has improvisation made you a better actor? Because it's something we talk about in our auditions for the conservatory. We talk about the audition room, and we ask, what do you need when you go? And everyone says headshot, resume, etc. And now these days, improvisation is something you need in the audition room as a regular actor. I can't count the number of submissions lately that I've done where in my notes I write tons of improvisation experience because they're looking for it and mention so in the casting. And so, once again, we are the Improvisation News team. I'm Chris O'Neill, and from the back we are...
Laura Rosecook.
Pamela Joy.
Izzy Church.
Frank Logan.
The Frank Logan. Femi Olagoke.
And Ellen Coe.
Thank you so much for coming this evening. Check us out on Twitter at @IN_studios, and we will see you soon. Good night.